A reading from the first Epistle to Timothy, chapter 2, beginning at verse 1. First of all, I ask you to pray for everyone. Ask God to help and bless them all, and tell God how thankful you are for each of them. Pray for kings and others in power, so we may live quiet and peaceful lives as we worship and honour God. This kind of prayer is good, and it pleases God our Saviour. God wants everyone to be saved and to know the whole truth, which is, there is only one God, and Christ Jesus is the only one who can bring us to God. Jesus was truly human, and he gave himself to rescue all of us. God showed us this at the right time. This is why God chose me to be a preacher and an apostle of good news. I am telling the truth. I am not lying. God sent me to teach the Gentiles about faith and truth.
Hello and welcome today to Ikegami Central Park in Nishi in the west side of Kobe City. It's a very small park, kind of backs onto a residential area, and also just behind the camera is the Shinkansen, the bullet train main line from Tokyo down towards Hiroshima, and they pass quite frequently, so I'm sure we're going to have a little bit of interruption to this morning, but hopefully it's not too loud and we can just carry on with what we want to do. This is a small park, there's a little bit of play area, kind of open sports field, and some lovely bamboo behind me. I don't know if you can see that clearly, maybe not, but it's hot still, and it's not nice to be outside under this roasting sun, but it's nice to get a bit of a breeze and a bit of fresh air and be out of the office. As is so natural with human beings, it is only when we face the reality of our loss that we truly understand what has gone. So said former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson in his tribute to Queen Elizabeth on the day after her death had been announced. And isn't that so true? The outpouring of grief since her passing has shown us that not only for people of the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth, but also for people all around the world, who have lived for most of their lives, if not all of them, with this kind, grandmotherly figure with her corgis in the background. And the fact that she's not there anymore, that her presence all around us on coins, banknotes and stamps, on TV in meetings with world leaders, all that will disappear. And that is going to take some time for us to be able to take in. What we might have accepted as always being there is not going to be. And it's sad. Maybe we'll feel anxious because things are going to change. But it is as we prepare for those changes that we can look back and see over her 70-year reign all that Queen Elizabeth has been part of. And some have said that yes, it is only in her death can we really understand what she did in her life. Because think about it, what exactly did she do? She travelled the world to help build up relationships and foster peace between the UK and other countries and other peoples. She acted as a figurehead and focus for Britain in times of great social and political upheaval and change. She provided a visible link with the very complicated history of her nation, and she knew how to change a Land Rover engine. But I think it was not so much in the big events of state, but rather in the small things where Queen Elizabeth really came into her own, where she really made such an impression or such an impact. Because when she spoke to people, be they the President of the United States of America or the guy who collects the rubbish bins from down the street, she put them all equally at their ease. She took time to listen. She showed an interest in them and cared for them. And she made them all feel special. For somebody who was important, she was very good at making those that she talked with feel the same way. And that was a really amazing ability. Her life was one of service, no doubt. It truly was a life lived for the other, for others. But of course, this is not only Queen Elizabeth, is it? Maybe we notice her more because her reign was so public and so long. But if we think carefully and we look around the world, we will see monarchs, kings and queens, emperors, sultans, emirs, and also elected leaders, such as prime ministers or presidents, who devote their lives to others. They all devote their waking hours to caring for other people and to creating a better nation and hopefully, we pray, a better world. And our second reading today from the Epistle to Timothy tells us something about all of those leaders. Or rather, it tells us something that we need to do for them. It tells us that we need to pray for them. And why? Well, the writer says we need to do this so that we can live quiet and peaceful lives as we worship and honour God. Now, are our lives peaceful and quiet? I don't think so. Not every day, no, they're not. Which means we need to pray more. Well, maybe it does, but seriously, I'm guessing that our lives would be even less quiet and less peaceful if those people in the top seats, if we put it that way, are not being inspired, encouraged, guided and blessed by God. And we want that to happen, don't we? We want those leaders to be in that place, in that relationship with God, because then, hopefully, they will use the power that they have entrusted in them or given to them in the right way, in the way that God desires. And that's only going to lead to a better world for us all to live in. Because if you imagine the positions that they are in, whether they're born into them or whether they are voted into them, they bring with them, the jobs that is, a huge amount of responsibility. A huge amount of responsibility to the people around them. And it's certainly not a job that I would like to have. And if we go all the way back to 1947, when Princess Elizabeth, as she was then, 21 years old, addressed the British people, and she promised to devote her life, whether it was long or short, to their service. But she also acknowledged that it was not something that she could achieve by herself. She needed the public's help. She needed their prayers. And since then, she has often said how grateful she is for those continuing prayers. And it's only those prayers that enable her to conduct herself and to conduct the role that she has, because she knows that that support is there. She recognised that the help she needed in order to handle her responsibility and discharge her duty as monarch can only come through her faith in God. And she confirmed that in a message as recently as the Lambeth Conference in July and August, when she sent a message to the opening of that group, that conference, saying that it was only the message and the teachings of Christ which have been her guide. But with that, she recognised that the help came through the prayers of others. So she may have been born into that role, but it was only with God's help and with the prayers and the consistent prayers of others that she had any hope of fulfilling it. Boris Johnson, the 14th Prime Minister of the 15 who served during Elizabeth's reign, continued his tribute to her, saying, "She taught us how to give. She taught us how to love. She taught us how to serve. And it is only really now that we grasp how much she meant for us, how much she did for us, and how much she loved us." And now when we think about those words, don't they remind us just of somebody else? of our Lord Jesus Christ. So I hope that we can learn much from the life and the example of Elizabeth II, and that in our own way we can pay homage to her legacy by living like she did, by loving like she did, and by serving like she did. And as we thank God for sending his Son to be with us, to bring us the hope of eternal life, we also thank God for the life and the service of Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II, wife, mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, and monarch, who devoted her life firstly and foremostly to the King of Kings, and truly lived out what she believed. May she rest in peace and rise in glory. Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, thank you for the life of your daughter Elizabeth, for her service and for her faith, which sustained her in all things. May we be inspired by both and live to serve our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.